Hello guys, welcome back to KD Code. In this video, we will discuss about a new way to scrap data from Twitter. I am going to introduce you all the new packages altogether we will be using in this video, which helps us to scrap data from Twitter. But it is not straightforward. We need to do some workaround to get the data. So let's get started. First, we need to install these packages. So open your Python terminal and type the commands, which I will be showing now. Right? So pip install playwright. So this is the first command, and along with playwright you can also install scrapfly-stk. Scrapfly-stk. Right? These are the two packages we need for now. So once we install these packages, we need to run one more command to install the playwright browser. Yes, you had it right. It is a browser. So the command is playwright install. Right? So this command will install the browser in your system. So what is this playwright browser does? So it helps us to scrap the data from the websites. It's basically a headless browser, which means it runs in the background and does not open any browser and scrap the data. Right? It can also be called as cross-browser automation tool because it supports all the browser like Chrome, Firefox, Microsoft Edge and everything. In other words, it is a browser automation tool which helps us to scrap the data from the websites. Once we install these packages and the browser using this playwright package, we can start writing the code. By using this, we can get the profiles information, tweets information without any login access, right? Because those information are publicly available, right? So, and there is some information, the replies and comments which are not publicly available, which needs an login access to get those data. So I will make another video on that, stay tuned. But for now, we will get the user profile information and also the tweets information. Let's see how we can do it, right? So let's first see how to get the profile information of a user, right? The first step is to import this playwright. So from playwright, I want to change this version here. Okay, from playwright dot sync API, we have to import the sync playwright. Okay, and then we have to define a function to scrap the profiles, right? Let me define it. Scrap profile info, right? So what does this function do? So basically it takes an URL which is to be scrapped, right? It is of string type, obviously, right? And then inside this function we have to launch the playwright browser, right? How can we do that? Yes, we can use this sync playwright first and we can open the browser, that is headless browser. So let me show you how can we do that. Okay, so with sync playwright, this is a function and we have to open it as p, let's say p, and we have to define our browser first. So p dot chromium dot launch. So we are launching our headless browser using this line, right? And we have to store this inside a variable browser, right? So in this step, what we are doing is we are launching a headless browser. After launching the headless browser, we have to create a new context. So browser dot new context, and we have to give some viewport here like this width of 1920 and then height of 1080, right? We have to give them in a dictionary format. So this is how we create a new context for our browser, right? With this specified pixel values. Let's store this contest in some context variable, right? Now we have to launch a new page in our browser from this contest, right? So contest dot new page, we have to launch this page and store it in a variable, right? So after launching a new page, we have to go to the URL that sent to this function, right? Go to URL. But before this, we have to define something else. What is that? So before going to this URL, we have to intercept all the requests that being called when we go to this URL, right? So to do that, we need to enable some background request intercepting method, right? So how can we do that? We can do that using the same page dot on off. We have to take the response, right? And we have to define a function to take all the intercept response. So let's take it as intercept response. So who defines this function? Again, we only have to define this function. Let's take this name, and inside this function only we have to create one more function, that is intercept response, which take response as a parameter. Then we have to check if this response dot request dot resource type underscore type is equal to XHR. So what is this XHR? It is nothing but XML HTTP request. So XHR is a type of request where we get XML HTTP request, right? So we have to take that resource type XHR and we have to record all of those responses. So to record all these responses, and that variable should be used in this with scope, right? So I'm defining another list here saying XHR calls, right? So I'm taking all XHR calls. This is a list. So I'm appending all the XHR calls to this list, right? So append these responses here. I have appended all the responses here. Then return the response, right? That's how we intercept this response, right? And then after we are going to the URL background, we are intercepting all the responses. Then we have to wait for the page to load by waiting for a specific selector that identifies a tweet, right? Here we are taking the profile information of a user, right? So profile information has some specific selector. Whenever this page loads, we have to capture that selector. So this is a specific selector which gives us the information about the user profile, right? So we have to wait for the page to load. So what can we do? Wait for the selector. Whenever this selector comes up, we take the response, right? So after selecting the responses, what we have to do? So here we are storing all the responses XHR calls using this selector, right? So what can we do is we have to filter one more thing to get the user profile information. So I have to iterate over this XHR calls. So I can do this for f in XHR calls if there is this specific user by string in f.url. So this response request URL has user by string, then we have to take that. That is the user calls, right? So for each of the user call in user calls, we have to take the data. So data equal to user calls dot JSON. It will retrieve the JSON response from that user call, and we have to return the data, the useful information we have to return, right? So that is nothing but data of user and the result. So this is how we return the user data here. So the summary of what we did in this function is, we define the function as scrap profile info. It takes the URL of the user and returns a dictionary of data here, right? The JSON dictionary. And inside this function we use this sync playwright to launch this browser, and then create a new context, and we create a new page again, and we are recording the responses by intercepting the URLs here in this function, and we are storing the response in this global list, and we are using that list here. Before that we are selecting the specific selectors only to record this XML calls, right? And then we are searching user by string in this URL. If it is present, these are the user calls, and for each of the user calls we are taking the JSON and returning it, right? So that's how it works. So let's call this function now using a specific user information. Let's take the URL for Elon Musk. Let's go to browser. Let's go to Twitter. Mr. Beast, right? We can take Mr. Beast also. I'm taking this URL. Let's call this function scrap info and then the URL, right? So let's print it. Print. Let's run it. So whenever I run this function, a browser that is headless browser pops up. Wait for the browser to quit, and then we will get this response, right? So what is this information? Let's take this. Let's print it using pprint. So it will print the information in prettier format, right? From pprint import pprint, like that. Let's print it in some prettier format like this. So this is how it looks. It pop-ups a window here, and it loads. It waits for the selector URLs, and then it will intercept, and it will give the data to us. Let me run it again. So this is how it pop-ups the browser. It will take all the URLs by using the selectors and take the user calls and retrieve the data. So this is how it's printing the data, right? Let me copy this. Copy. I'm creating a new file here. Mr. Beast userInfo.json, right? Pasting it here. It's not in right format, I guess. So let me do one thing. Let me quickly store it in a JSON file using JSON, right? Import JSON here, like that. So with open Mr. Beast userInfo.json in right format as f, right? Then JSON dot dump of this scrap profile info data here using f with an indentation of 4, right? 4 spaces. Let me save it, run it. Let's wait. Yes. So let's go to this again. So you see the data came into this file. So this is Mr. Beast user information, user profile information, right? So you see there are many things here. So the first one is type name, whether it is user or tweet, and next two is IDs. Then this is some affiliated highlighted label, is blue tick verified or not, profile image shape. And in this legacy we can find many of the things, like when did the account got created, the date, and the description of the user. And in these entities we can find the URLs of Mr. Beast, which is mentioned in his description, right? So let me show you. So here the Mr. Beast has many URLs, right? amazon.com/beastgames. And follow me for a cookie, it is a location, but he mentioned it as follow me for a cookie, like that. And this is the join date, the created date, and these are the links, right? So the same thing mentioned here. These are the links, amazon.com. This is the display URL, and it is the expanded URL. Nothing but if we go to this URL, it is same as the display URL. The URL also same, right? So basically this all goes to amazon.com/beastgames, right? And then if you see here, it is fast followers count and favorites count. I don't know what these two informations are corresponding to. If you are able to find out, comment down below. But I see here the followers count, right? So the same thing we can see in his profile, 31.4 million followers and 2049 following. So here this 2049 is mentioned as a friends count, right? So this friends count is nothing but the number of persons Mr. Beast is following, right? And we can see there is some useful information here, like location. He mentioned it as follow me for a cookie. And media count is 681. Let's see what is media count. So media count is nothing but when we click on media, we get this count 861, right? 861 photos and videos, right? So that is the count of posts he did and videos he did in the Twitter, right? So let's go forward. And normal followers count is nothing but same as followers count, so we don't need this. And pinned tweet string ID, this is the pinned tweet ID of Mr. B, right? So right here if you see, there is one tweet pinned here, right? This pinned tweet string ID is given as list in that value, right? If you see, this string is corresponding to that pinned tweet ID, right? And if you see here, we have two more useful features, that is profile banner URL and profile image URL HTTPS. So this is the banner URL of the Twitter account he had and the image URL of the user, right? So if I click on this, you see it goes to the banner image, right? This is the banner. And if I click on this, it goes to the profile image. It is very small, yeah. This is the profile image you are seeing here, right? And the screen name is nothing but this, right? So status count, it is nothing but the number of posts he did in the Twitter account, right? You see here 6,912 posts he did, right? Here. And then this URL is nothing but the same URL we are using to retrieve it, so doesn't matter we save it or not. And professional, so what kind of information we can get from this professional? So we can get he is a creator, so most of the time it will be creator, I guess. So tip jar settings, I don't think it will be useful for us. And then verified phone status, whether he has verified his phone status or not. It is false. I think this is one more useful feature. And then I'm not seeing into this verification info, I didn't find anything interesting there. And there is one thing, that is creator subscription count. It is 5 here. Let's see. If you see here, the subscription count is 5, right? So mostly the following, followers, subscription, the join date, and this location, and also the user description links along with the name and also the description of the user, and also the banner images, everything we got here. The media, number of media, and number of posts he did in the Twitter. So all of this information we can get, right? So here I don't want to see it in some JSON format, I want to see it in some really good looking data frame format, right? So for that I also did some code. So let me show you that. For that I have to open Anaconda prompt and show you in Jupyter Notebook, right? Let's open it. So I open Anaconda prompt and type python -m Jupyter lab, right? So here we are in the same folder where we are doing all of this. This is a JSON file, right? So now we'll try to create a Jupyter notebook, right? Let's rename it Twitter scrapping, like that. First we need to read this JSON file, right? And then we have to map these key values with our key values in the data frame, and we have to take the values, right? The values like the type name user, right? But we find it difficult because it is not in good format, right? There are some dictionaries inside this dictionary, right? There are some already defined dictionaries like entities inside this description and URLs. There are some inner dictionaries. So how can we do this? So for that I have defined a mapping. Let me show you that. So to read this data we have to import JSON, obviously, and also Pandas to make a data frame, right? Let's run it. So what can we do is, let me copy paste some data here. So this is how I load this data using open as JSON file, and using this JSON I load it inside this data variable, right? And these are the key mappings I did. So if you observe here, user or tweet, it is mapped to type name, is blue verified, and created it. If you see the created it will be inside this legacy, right? So what I did is I did legacy dot created it, right? And for description also it is inside this legacy inside that description, right? So what I did is legacy dot description, right? And user web URL. So these names I have given based on my own interest, so we can give whatever you need, but these names on the right side you have to give the same names because they map to this JSON here, right? So for this user web URL it is entities URL I have given the display URL, right? Inside this the display URL, right? And then the same favorites count, followers count, following as custom timelines, location of the user, photos and videos count. So it is mentioned as inside legacy media count, right? You see here after this favorites count, followers count, friends count, everything, we see the location also here, the media count is inside this legacy, right? Inside this legacy. So we are taking all these variables, the screen name, status count, but with some different column names in the data frame, right? So I took it as photos and videos count. It makes more sense, right? And legal name, it is name, and pinned tweets string ID. So it is same. I took the same column. And profile banner URL, I took the same. And profile image URL HTTPS. So I changed it little bit like profile image URL, and screen name as screen name, and status count is nothing but the post count, right? So I did like this. And professional, the profession type I took it like professional type only. Verified phone status, so the same thing I took it here. And create a subscription count, the same thing I took it here, right? For this we don't need any legacy like that because it is outside, right? It is in the first level, but inside this legacy they are in the second level, and inside these entities they are in the third level. So in the same way you can do it. We can use this dot, but what is the use of this dot, you can ask me like that. For that I have defined a function here. Let me show you that function. So if you see here, return value from data, so it is taking the data and also the key value. So we have to take the copy of this data because it overwrites it if we do not take the copy, and store it in temp, right? For I in key, and we have to split at dot. So what is this dot we are splitting it? So if this is the string, let's take legacy dot created it, and if we split at dot it will create a list, right? legacy comma created it. And let me tell you about this again, but it is not, I is not URLs, I is not pinned tweet IDs or media. So it comes here and it goes temp.keys. If I is in temp.keys, like legacy, we'll take this dictionary and retrieve all the keys, right? The keys are nothing but the type name, ID, rest ID, all these, and legacy also one of the key, right? So it takes the key value. If it is in the keys, then we will take the value of that key in the dictionary and set it as temp, right here. So what we will do is we will take legacy. Inside this legacy we have one more dictionary, right? All this information is in one more dictionary. So what can we do is we are assigning it to temp again. So whenever we come across the next one, that is created at, again we will check if created at is in the temp.keys. There is nothing but the dictionary changes now, right? Instead of the outer level dictionary, we are inside this legacy and we are checking the keys of this dictionary inside this legacy, right? So created at is there in the legacy, that is the temporary dictionary, right? So what we are doing, we are taking the value of the created at key, right? So we are taking value is nothing but this April 21st, Monday, April 21st, 2014, this is the value, right? We are taking it and we are appending it to temp. So there are no other values in the list. So this for loop will end totally and then we will return temp. Temp is the value of created at, right? So this value will return. The same thing happens for each and every key value here. And coming to this if condition, if you observe the URLs inside these entities, let's see, it is a list, right? Inside this list we have one more dictionary, right? So if it is like URLs or pinned tweets string or media, they are a list, right? So what I'm doing is I'm checking if the list is greater than 0, if there are any values or not. If there are any values, I'm taking the first value because I just need the first one. If you want to retrieve all of them, you can, instead of this, you can just give a for loop here and store them in separate variables and return it. So for now I'm showing it, I'm taking just the first one, right? And if there are no values in that URLs, then I'm returning none, right? So that's it. So if not every key value is not present in the data, then I'm returning none, that is the null value again. So let's run it. Before that I have to call this function, right? So let's call this function first. So for I in this user profile key to key mapping, you have to take every mapping, right? So every mapping dot items, so we are taking each and every item. So every entry it will retrieve user or tweet or comma type name, right? So we have to store it in some dictionary, right? So I will define one dictionary here, user profile JSON, okay? So I'm storing it in user profile JSON. I'm taking this column value as I of 0 is nothing but these names, creator, subscription count, the left hand side values, and right hand side values I will call this return. So I will call this return value from data. Instead that I have to send the data. Data is nothing but the data we loaded from this JSON, right? And comma I of 1, right? So that's how we do this. But we can store it as a list of values because we have to convert them to DataFrame again. So DataFrame accepts a list of data for the dictionary, right? So after this we can create the DataFrame like pd dot DataFrame. Inside this we can give this user profile JSON, right? Let's store it in user DataFrame, right? Let me print the rows df dot head, right? Let's run it now, right? So if you see here, let me do this. So if you see here, user tweet is blue verified, created at description, web URL, and expanded web URL, favorites count, followers count, following, everything, photos and videos count, name, pinned tweet interest, IDs, profile banner URL, post count, professional type, verified phone status or not, created subscription count. Everything that we mentioned in this dictionary came out here in a data frame, right? And if you observe here, it is 21 columns. So we have extracted 21 features from this user profile JSON output we got from this file, right? This is for only Mr. Beast, right? So we have to take the URL names, right? This URL remains same. Let me show you. So this URL remains same except this Mr. Beast, right? Instead of this, you can give Elon Musk and you can do the same thing, right? You have to give the Elon Musk and try getting all this data, and same code you have to give same thing. You have to give the key values will not change, and you have to run it and you have to append it on this data frame, and you will get the second row, right? So this is how you get the user profile values using this playwright browser technique. You can also get the information of different tweets using the tweet URL, right? Let me show you how you get that tweet information also. It is very simple. The same steps you have to follow, but there are little bit few changes we have to do, right? Let's see it. So we can use the same function, but there are some few changes we need to do to get the post information of a user, right? So the changes what we have to do is the selector, right? This selector is specified to retrieve the user data, user profile data, right? There is one more selector which we have to use to get the tweets data also. So this is the selector we have to use to get tweets data, right? And there is one more thing here, user by, right? We are filtering out all the URLs based on user by string, right? But for tweets it is not like that. We have to use one more thing. So instead of this user by, we have to use tweets result by REST ID, right? And there is one more last thing we have to change, that is user here, right? This user is specified to retrieve user results, user profile data, right? Instead of that, we have to use Twitter result, right? So these are three changes we need to do in this function to retrieve the post information of the user, right? Let's do the changes quickly. So we can use the same function to retrieve all the information, but we need one more variable information, that is whether the URL is meant for getting the user or the tweet, right? So you can take boolean user. So boolean user, what it does is it will check if it is true, then it is the URL of the user. If it is false, then it is the post URL of the user, right? So we can do it here. If boolean user, then let me assign these things to a variable, right? Selector equal to this, and then xhr condition equal to user by, right? And there is one more thing, we have to return the JSON data, right? So JSON condition is equal to user, right? If it is not user, we have to assign other values, right? Let me copy paste and change them. So if it is tweet, then we have to change the selector to this. If it is tweet, again here what we have to do, we have to change it to tweets result by REST ID, right? And if it is tweets, then we have to take tweets result. Let me take the selector and paste it here in the xhr condition here, and JSON condition here, it goes, right? So this function is totally useful to retrieve whether the profile information or the post information. So let's remove this, scrap Twitter info, right? I'm taking it like that, and instead of here I can take it as scrap Twitter info. and I have to send true or false here, right? So now it is not a user, I'm taking false, and I have to take one post ID here. Let's see. So here I am again. I want to retrieve the post ID, the first thing here, right? So let me copy this post URL from here, right? Let me paste it here. So instead of user info, we have to take it as user post info, right? Now let's run it. So if you see, if you see there is a lot of information here than just the profile information. You can also get the profile information from the post information. So if you see here, inside the score, user results and result, you see all this information inside this result are already there in this profile information. It is same as this, right? But along with this, we also get this post information, all of this, right? Anyway, we have to change our key mapping dictionary a little bit to make this data useful, right? Let's see what are the information here it is mentioned, right? The views, it is important, right? We have to take views and count of the views, right? So the count of the views we have to take. So if you see the count of the views, let's see, 60 million, right? The same thing goes here, it is 60 million. The count of the views is 60 million. And the source, so if you see Twitter for iPhone, the post is from iPhone, right? And inside this legacy we can find more information, right? And the created at, so this created at is different from what we seen in the user profile. This created at is nothing but the post creation date, right? And conversation ID string, more technical way. On the media here, if you see, there are different URLs, but I'm retrieving the first URL itself. So we just need this media URL HTTPS, right? So this goes a long way to the same URL here, right? The image of whatever this post has will come here, right? So I'm taking this. Again, we can take expanded URL and display URL also. It will go to the same thing again. So we don't need these features and sizes, also this original info, and we can also take this allow download status if you're interested, as we don't need this. And this is a second display URL. So if you click on this, it will go to the second image, right? So this is the second image. If you see, this is second image. So this is the second media we got. And then this is the type of photo. So both are photos only. So we got photo, else it will be video, something like that, right? Based on the media type also we are getting the data. So what else we got here? So media, that's it for the media, and that's it for the entities. Then these are the extended entities. The same thing mentioned in the entities will be mentioned in these extended entities also. So we don't need any information extra here. So we can go up. Can finally came out of these entities. Again, we are still in this inside this legacy. So whatever we got here are probably related to post, right? So you see this information, quote count, reply count, retweet count, retweeted, whether this post is retweeted or not, those things are mentioned here, on the language of the post. The main thing here, the full test, the test of the post. So if you see here, so I kind of did a thing, is a full test here in this post. So that came here along with the emoji, right? And you see the quote count, reply count and retweet count. So we can get these data from Mr. Beast post. Let's try to pre-process these and get a data frame out of it, right? So here am I again. I have to read Mr. Beast post information, right? So instead of user, I need to get the post information. But before that, I need to change this key mapping again, right? So let me copy paste. So most of the key to key mapping here or remains same. Few things I added here. So extra I have added here if you see the edits remaining, is the post editable or not, and the source and the post created date. This is different from the created date, right? This is the account creation date, this is the post creation date, and post conversation ID, which I have shown earlier. If you want to see, you can click on this, and these are the things, right? Views, I have taken the views also here. Views count, it is inside views and dot count, right? Views inside dot count. The same thing goes for rest of the things. If you see the quote, reply, retweet, all are inside this legacy only. So if you go here inside this legacy, we have all the counts, right? And full test, everything I took it here, right? The full test, everything I took it here. And the same thing we do here, we just run it, and for the URLs, media and pin tweets ID, everything will remain same. So let's run it. So now if you see, there are 37 columns. The previously it is 21, right? Previously it is 21, but now it is 37. So our features increased when we use the post URL. So all the information we got it here again. This is only for one post. If you want to get it for another post, you can go to here and just click on another post, and you copy it, and you will get all the information in the same way. Key to key mapping, it will not change, only the data changes in this JSON file, and you will get all the profile and tweets information by just using this workaround using the playwright. Thanks to playwright, and I hope this video helps to you guys. We are near to 1k. Please watch this video and share to the friends and family who are interested to learn about these machine learning on projects in 2025. Please subscribe and share this. In the next video, we will see how to get the replies and comments for the post, but for that we have to get some tokens and we have to log in, because those are not publicly available. So we have to log in and see all those information. So that is little bit different process. I will be sharing that to you in next video. Till then, please subscribe and share our channel to all other people, because we are near to 1k. Please guys, thank you, thanks for watching.